friends, 2 weeks ago, our family received an early Christmas gift. My brother-in-law, who's 44, finally got married. This has been a prayer that the family's been praying for him for the last 24 years. And so Jackie, my wife, is the oldest of the 7 siblings, and he's the youngest. And so she proclaimed one of the readings. And it was the letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, something that we're all familiar with. It proclaims that love is gentle, love is kind, love is not jealous, love does not look out for its own interests, love is not rude. We see now indistinctly as through a mirror, but then we will see face to face. Finally, there remain these 3, faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. And in the silence, as Jackie is closing the lectionary, our great niece, Haley, who is 7 years old, just bursts out and says, this is the greatest 5 words humbly I've ever heard. Love is greater than anything. Well, that, of course, just loosened up the church. But you're right, Haley, love is greater, love is stronger than anything. We need to hear this over and over and over again. We can't repeat it enough times. Ordinarily, we will hear this in church, and sometimes during a wedding, and there will be very rarely any dry eye in the house. But recently, I saw this portrayed in an unlikely place. I saw it on TV. Now, we all have to understand, my friends, we've come to kind of an unusual place in our country, and everything has kind of been turned upside down. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. Is that our TV programming is far less imaginative and far less creative and far less inspirational than the ads or the commercials on TV. And so the commercial I saw was for paper products, and it started like this. It portrayed the love of a little 6-year-old little boy for his dad, who was stationed overseas in Afghanistan. So it starts out with the little boy looking at a picture of himself and his dad, and obviously missing him. So he traces on a wall map the distance between his home and Afghanistan, and he gets the idea that he can send a series of letters to his dad through paper airplanes. And so that's exactly what he does. He gets out his box of crayons, and he makes a fleet of paper airplanes, and then takes them out to the yard and starts tossing them over the 6-foot fence on the side of his house, thinking that the wind will somehow or another take them to where his dad is. Well, he doesn't see the neighbor on the other side of the fence, who's an older gentleman, come out, and he's not very much pleased with the paper all over his yard. And he picks one up with a scowl, and then he reads it, and his face changes. And he gathers up all these little airplanes and puts them into a box and ships them to the sergeant who's stationed in Afghanistan. And the next scene is the soldier opening the box with a big grin at camp. And then the next scene is the neighbor receiving a box back full of paper airplanes from the dad. And so that afternoon, this neighbor takes the airplanes out and starts tossing them over the fence. And he hears the little boy next door kicking his ball around. And the little boy sees the plane land, and he runs over to it. And kind of anticipating, he opens it up, not knowing what's going to be happening. And he sees the note from his dad. And he just gets this completely unfiltered look of complete delight on his face. And then he stands up, and at that point, several planes are coming over the fence, and he just stands there in absolute, complete wonder and awe. It's a great commercial, but it points out that a simple few pieces of paper and an act of kindness can close the distance of oceans between dad and his son. The neighbor is only providing a sign that this young man's dad still loves him, wants to be with him, and still cares for him. The boy, on the other hand, has no idea where these planes are coming from, only that this is a sign that his dad just loves him. He's reading his very own letters. He doesn't comprehend any more than the prophet Isaiah comprehends what he's saying to us as a sign in today's first reading. The prophet Isaiah can't fully comprehend the sign, but all we pick up is that God, our Father, loves us and wants to be with us. We hear in our first reading that the sign is as deep as the netherworld, as high as the sky. It's incomprehensible. And it's echoed in our gospel as well. It's just as incomprehensible as a fleet of paper airplanes landing at the feet of a 6-year-old. A virgin will conceive and bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. God is with us. My friends, this is a season of great wonder. And the wonder is not in all the great lights we see, the fantastic scenery, the beautiful music that comes forth at this time of year. The wonder is each act of kindness, of peace, and of just generosity that the Spirit of God inspires in all of us during the season. Emmanuel, God with us, can be seen even in a paper airplane. And so may the Spirit of the Lord inspire us in acts of kindness, in acts of generosity, and in acts of love this season, because after all, love is stronger, is greater than anything.